Hello everyone, welcome. Today we'll discuss about AWS RDS and AWS Aurora. So database as a service has grown tremendously over the past few years as it gives users an opportunity to host their database without having to worry about underlying infrastructure or installation of any kind of softwares. Since it has gained so much popularity, when it comes to designing a new solution or migrating your existing database from on-premise to the cloud, people often get confused about which service to select, either IDS or Aurora. So in this video, we will discuss about both of them, uh, and the motive behind this is to help you understand what trade-offs you will be making by selecting one over the other. So let's discuss AWS IDS first. So IDS is Amazon managed relational database service. So unlike you had to do an on-premise database where you have to install the OS, install the engine, in IDS you get everything pre-installed. So it is definitely easy to set up and operate. Whenever we talk about databases, right, administrative tasks are something very important which needs to be considered, and it with the IDS it is super easy to do all those administrative tasks as compared to your traditional database. You can have a multi-AZ deployment with AWS RDS, which will host your database across multiple availability zones. So even if some availability zone goes down, your database is still up and running, which makes it highly available and fast. You can use AWS's IAM feature to control the permission and access on your RDS database, which again makes it secure. When you compare it with your traditional database, it is definitely cheaper option. It supports multiple database engines, so you have plenty of options to choose from. Let's discuss AWS Aurora. So unlike RDS, Aurora only support MySQL and PostgreSQL database engine at the time of making this video. So if you're watching it, you must check the documentation if now it supports all the database engines. Aurora is fully managed AWS relational database service. So unlike RDS where you create a database instance, in Aurora you have to create the cluster first and then you create a reader and writer type of instance. So if you want to know more about it, you can definitely check the documentation, which will give you a better idea. Aurora is distributed and fault tolerant system, and which makes it high performance. So when the system is distributed, definitely while your the amount of queries and the time of query execution is reduced, and the overall system becomes efficient. It comes with the self-filling of the storage, and you can definitely use the IAM with Aurora as well, which will make it secure. It supports migration support. It again has something called Aurora serverless. We will discuss this part in next slide. So when we discuss about the performance, Aurora gives you 3 times better performance while working with the PostgreSQL, and 5 times the better performance while working with the MySQL when you like comparing it on the same hardware. So as it is distributed, it definitely gives a much better performance. So it definitely a big yes for the Aurora as compared to RDS. So you can use something called parallel query execution with Aurora, which is not possible with the RDS. Now let's talk about Aurora serverless. With the serverless version, you can have an on-demand auto scaling, while in RDS you only get a storage auto scaling. Uh, On-demand auto scaling is something which very useful when you are not aware of the amount of traffic you will be getting on your database or your application. This is comparatively expensive as a predefined instance type. So you must consider on upon your application type if you want to choose the normal Aurora or Aurora serverless. So let's talk about the compatibility. So RDS support MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, MariaDB, Microsoft SQL. So there are plenty of options for database engine, while Aurora only support MySQL and PostgreSQL. In Aurora, when it comes to do a migration, you can do it with no or very minimal downtime. But in RDS, you have to use AWS's data migration service either you're migrating from EC2 or an on-premise hosted database. So it comes with a little bit of downtime. So that's a really big drawback with the RDS. When it comes to storage and auto scaling, so Aurora gives you a 128 terabyte of storage limit, while RDS only has 16 terabyte for SQL servers and 64 terabyte for MySQL, MariaDB, Oracle, and PostgreSQLs. So this is something which will be definitely dependent upon which type of database engine you are using or willing to use. Aurora supports a read replica auto scaling, while RDS doesn't support auto scaling. So in RDS as well, you can create a multiple read replicas, but this will be completely manual task. And in RDS, you can scale up your instance vertically, but again, you have to do it manually. In Aurora, you can have a 0 to 15 limit of read replicas and a single replica endpoint. So as your traffic is increasing, you can create a multiple read replicas to distribute the traffic among them, which is again a big plus for Aurora. So just a note that serverless uses on-demand capacity. So as we discussed earlier. So let's discuss some of the limitation and conclusion limitations about RDS and Aurora. So when it comes to patching, RDS definitely faces downtime, while Aurora does not. When it comes to administrative tasks, more like some of the administrative tasks are manual with the RDS. Then downtime is needed for RDS to perform a scaling operation. So if you want to increase your instance type in RDS, you have to stop the instance and then change the instance type and then restart it, which again gives you some downtime, which is not the case with Aurora. So if you're working with Aurora with the small and medium size instances, then there is a limitation on the resources and amount of connection you are allowed to have. So in production, you are definitely recommended to use a higher type of instance with the Aurora. And the drawback with Aurora is that even if you spin up the Aurora instance for a few seconds, you will be charged for 5 minutes. So the costing works as intervals of 5 minutes. So that is something you should be aware of. That's all. I hope you understand the trade-offs you will be making and what are the benefits of each of the service. In the description, I will add the documentation link, so you can definitely check those out to understand in detail about how the service exactly works. I hope this helps you, and that's it. Thank you. Have a good day.